There's corn in that there chili.
Try it.
Corn in chili?
Have you never had corn and chili?
No. Maybe
You're supposed to put the corn
That's a thing.
into bread.
No, yeah.
And then you put the bread made from the corn in the chili.
Oh, no.
That's how the corn is supposed to
I don't want to hear that from the person who got a 5 out of 10 on their chili.
5 out of 10. Ouch.
Yeah, I had Tim taste my chili last night.
From their spouse.
I asked him on a scale of 1 to 10, what's my score, and he said 5.
Ouch.
I
Don't
did.
pretend like you didn't. We had this whole conversation.
Purposefully did not answer that question.
Man,
he said 5. For the record, he did say 5.
It's a good thing he wasn't there when we had you over for chili because, I mean, my wife could have been devastated with the 5.
You know what? He would have liked. He would have liked Heather's because Heather's was not as spicy as mine. I think I lost some points due to spice level.
Overspice?
Overspice.
Or was it
no, hot
correct
spice?
Correct spice.
Correct
just
spicing.
Not, okay.
Correct spicing.
Chili has to be a little spicy, doesn't it?
Yes.
I think so. I mean, it depends. Now, I like it both ways. And we'll just add this in afterwards. I think we'll just let people hear our chili discussion and then we'll start the show. I think that's what because during COVID, John Monday dropped off 4 quarts of his.
It's the COVID killer.
And they were like, what kind do you want, spicy or non-spicy? And I'm like, just bring your A game. And my girls were like, Dad, this is so spicy. And I was like, bring it on. So maybe it was just, I didn't have enough taste buds to go for it, the whole thing, but it was delicious.
Maybe it's not a chili contest. It's a chili eater contest. Like, how hot can you handle it?
Ooh.
Well, wait a minute.
We already have the winner from Steve.
I know,
Steve already
Stevie
took
from
care of that
Church Retreat.
Is Stevie here?
I think he's the winner. Actually, it would be between him and
and Josh.
And Josh. I was going to say, maybe we should have invited Josh and Stevie to read.
I don't think we'll ever get them to redo that.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Stevie lost his hair.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Steve
I think
said it left him in bad places for weeks.
Yeah, I don't want to lose my hair, but I also don't want whatever they had for those days. I think I would have maybe taken the hair route. I don't know. That sounds like a lot of pain to me. Anyway, all right. Well, there you go. Welcome, everyone. It is episode 389 of This Is Whole Life. We started off with chili talk because there is a crock pot of chili over my right shoulder that Ken is bringing to Barn Party tonight.
Peanut butter chocolate kiss cookies
chili?
over your...
Oh, goodness. I thought you were talking about the chili again.
Oh, man. I was like, man, if that's in the chili, we are... I mean, I think corn
After
is weird.
losing last year, I decided to try a new formula. I think this one's going to be the winner. A little peanut butter, a little chocolate. Everybody loves chocolate.
Oh man, in chili, just imagine it that if you can. Well, this week, if you haven't been listening to the podcast and you haven't been at Whole Life for the last month, and you know that it's Barn Party tonight, and if you're hearing
Barn Party,
it's going to be too late. You missed Barn Party, unless you came to Barn Party, which in that case,
or you're early for next year.
Which next year the date is November the 9th. So mark your
We already know that. November
We already know
9th.
that.
Look at that.
See, we're on top of things.
That's very organized.
Well, we try to be. I'm not going to take credit for it. John told me, sent it to me in a text. I was just curious.
No, that's awesome. Good job, John.
Yeah, see, and
November
unfortunately,
9. You already know.
And if you're all listening to this, would you just send up a quick prayer for John and his brother who going through some medical issues, and John had to take off. Unfortunately, the Mr. Barn Party will not be here.
Yeah, kind of stinky to plan your party and not be able to be at it. So
a lot of work goes into Barn
Definitely
Party.
want to pray for him and his brother.
Absolutely. So, in another fun part of today was bluegrass. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Polly, we miss you. How do you not love bluegrass? Ken,
That was great.
Bluegrass?
Yeah, I love today. It was good.
Loved it. Oh, yeah. The stand-up bass, electronic bass. Fantastic.
It's nice. Should we introduce?
I think we should probably talk about the elephants in the room. Sorry, no, sorry.
Oh.
Wow! Look who said that. Look at that.
All right, so
It wasn't me
I am
this time.
so glad
I
it
do
wasn't
it
you.
once a year. Randy called Pam a sheep last week. So.
Oh, look! You're trying to take people down with you.
Hey,
It was
know
one
what?
of the flock. Come on.
Wow!
Wow, that's ice cold. That's so cold. Wow.
Okay.
So are you?
Moving on.
So we're just going to leave it with elephants. Well, the elephant to her right is Tim Bachman, which I think they've
Also
met
known
before.
as
known as Nashville Tim.
Who are you now?
Yeah, who are you now?
I'm still working Nashville Tim.
You're still working the Nashville Tim angle?
Really
Yeah.
It just
that
depends
O-Town
on
Tim.
depends on what kind of mood he's in.
I
Whether
like
he's
the Orlando.
Nashville Tim.
I like the Orlando Lorian.
The Orlando Lorian.
Yeah,
That didn't work. I wasn't getting any response when I would send a comment
That's
online
sad.
during the service.
That's sad. I'm sorry. That was my favorite, but we'll stick with my personal favorite is Nashville Tim because it just sounds like you're in there to win it. I like that. And then to Melanie's right,
Is the
a
lovely
young lady, and
Left.
and all-time listener
Yes.
and contributor, and
Yeah.
sometimes Randy forgets to read her comments in the week that they're supposed to be in.
And then she gets
Marina
to
Parente.
exercise our values of love, acceptance, forgiveness, grace.
Do you have one of those chips that you keep in your pocket?
I have it in my car.
In your car. Okay, because I was going to say there's a couple in my office. I can give you one just in case that you need to be reassured that those really are those things after the elephant fiasco here a couple minutes ago. Anyway, but so Veterans Day, really quickly, Veterans Day is just a great time to remember. In my own life, my dad was a Vietnam vet. He was in country for 10 months while my mom was pregnant with my brother. He was drafted pretty much because he was a CO, conscientious objector. He was way older than the draft age. He didn't pass a physical because of having flat feet, on other reasons, and my mom was pregnant, and still they took him anyway. And I knew my dad was a giving person and was someone who cared about people, but it wasn't always at the front of his personality. And my mom has a scrapbook that has pictures from Stars and Stripes, the military newspaper, and it's a picture of multiple pictures of my dad, who was known in his company. He was in the 101st Airborne as a medic, and my dad, if you know him, he's 5'0" and weighed about 130 pounds, I think, when he was in Vietnam. 5'2", 135 pounds, and he carried 95 pounds on his back every
Wow.
with his gear. But the rest of it was he would trade pork and beans for cake or for and trade cigarettes for other things for food. So he's like, when the chopper can't come in, he's like, I always ate good. And so he's like, I carry it, I eat it. And he used to say that because people would like, I'm not carrying all that, but then they'd want something to eat. And so I was like, well, that maybe he's not a sharer, but then here he is in Stars and Stripes sharing his sea rations and his food with the enemy that they had gotten in a camp. It just made me have a new love for my dad and for the kind of person that he is in his heart. And so some of the good stories that you can bring from that. Anyone else have veterans in their family?
Yeah, my dad was. He was also a conscientious objector, though, so he served as a medic during the Vietnam War. He was in Okinawa.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, my father was a CO also. And it's during the Korean War. And he got as far as San Francisco, the Presidio, or is that what it's called?
Yeah.
He was on the list to go to Korea, and evidently his commanding officer took him off. He said, no, I can't lose you. You're too good. So he did a really good job at what he was doing, and that kept him from going to see action.
No, my dad saw action, but he got assigned to a new company who had lost like 3 medics in a row, and when he was going out picking up people, his head of command came up and said, "If you ever go out there again, I'll shoot you myself." He said, "I've lost 3 people, and I'm not losing another one. No one else wants to go. You tell them to come talk to me. We'll decide who goes out in the field." So my dad was blessed. So the CO paid off in that route for him. So
Yeah.
anyway,
My maternal grandfather was a World War II vet.
World War II. Nice. Man, we had multiples in our family, but it just it was cool just to see and listen to those stories and realize what veterans have given up for us. All right, and then how appropriate that is, almost like it was planned. Melanie can follow me through the darkest valley, Veterans Day, kind of a planned thing.
I think it worked out that way.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And the story that you told, man, that was a powerful story about the gentleman that didn't want to tell the rest of the story. And what a humbling experience to be in that moment as a person trying to get the story, but just listening.
can't remember whether it was him or a different vet that I was interviewing, but after I was done, they actually flew family members out with these vets who had,
Oh, wow.
And one of the vet's sons came up to me kind of teary and said, as long as I know my dad, I haven't heard half the stories he told you today.
Wow.
He wouldn't talk about it.
My.
He said, thank you for giving me the opportunity to know my dad better.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these vets just kind of took those experience and put them behind a wall, and in that generation didn't really talk about it. And so it was humbling to hear their stories, to look at these 70, 80-year-old men and see pictures of them from when they were 17, 18, 19 years old. And some of them were like, I remember one was 17 years old when he came on and to the beaches on Guam. And so it was, anyway, yeah, I think he celebrated his birthday on Guam.
Wow.
His 18th birthday.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right.
I mean, to be that young and to think about what we were doing when we were that age, and to think about being in the conflict that they were in.
Oh, I have a 17-year-old son right now. So, it's something to think about when you think about your own child being that age and experiencing what those men experienced. And so, our vets from Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, Korea, Grenada, World War II, there are a few still left from there. We owe all of our vets gratitude for what, for not only what they did, but what the scars that they came back with that were both physical and emotional. And that's one of the things that I'm passionate about. I remember the first time I was kind of really introduced to the real current crisis we face with mental health issues in veterans was when I had a veteran come to my door to try to sell me something, and he had a tattoo on his arm of a number, and I don't want to get the number wrong, but it was basically the number of service people that every day take their life. I think it was the number 22.
It's in that number.
And it's something for us to, if you are a vet and you're listening to this and you're going through mental health related things, please, I beg you, find some people to listen to, some mental health professionals to work with. If for some reason money's an issue, come talk to Whole Life about that. Nobody should have to wrestle with that without the support of the community that they benefited because of the scars that they're carrying. So anyway,
no, and please know that is a sentiment that's not just from staff. I mean, this morning, Tito, who just joined us here in Ken's office while we record the podcast, this morning on the chat, people were just really supportive and glad that we were honoring vets with what Richard did and with the video and with your sermon and the comments. So, please know that this is a community that really values your service and values what you've done, and would love to be a part of any help that you might need.
And Ken, I think it's worthwhile to add, we owe gratitude to the families whose sons and daughters who didn't return or are suffering from PTSD and suicide possibilities.
That's a very real thing, Tim. I'm glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that. So, we definitely owe a debt of gratitude to the veterans and to their families. And that's one of the things, if you really, one of the things that I would cover the military on Guam, and one of my favorite things to go to was when a deployed company would return, because they would, all the families would be at the dock side or at a hangar on Anderson Air Force Base, and when those people returning from 6-month deployment, think about some of them were even longer than that, but you return from that deployment, you think about having like young children, and some of them were, the children didn't even recognize their parents because they were so young, as moms and dads were coming back from long deployments. So, man, Tim, I'm really glad you said that, because I think that's so important, that there is a toll that's taken, and so I'm glad you said that.
It's hard on families. My brother-in-law is in the Marines, and he's even though his rank is high, he still gets deployed. And when you get deployed for 6 months at a time, when your kids are under the age of double digits, just like you said, they come back, and it's hard to assimilate. The other parent, whether it's male or female, they have to hold it all together while the other person is gone, and
that's
it's tough.
The thing is, you kind of go between being a single parent and dual parenting, and that's it's hard to transition back and forth for the spouses, for the children, and but you know what I mean, that is we can all be grateful that we have people who are willing to make those kind of sacrifices, so that we can live in a country where we can feel relative safety, right?
Yep.
And you look at, as unstable as the United States may feel right now, it sure feels a lot more stable than a lot of other parts of the world right now.
Absolutely. Well, and bringing that back into, follow me through the darkest valleys. We continue on in the Psalm 23 series in our second week, and I noticed that there was a familiar name this week, Philip Keller, and I was like, didn't someone recommend that book on the podcast last week? Or was I wrong?
I'm sure Ken just heard about it last week and included it in his sermon.
That's
So it's a good thing you brought it up.
I probably.
Randy, I am just so grateful for you. My sermon prep would not have been the same had you not recommended that fantastic book that you recommended, Randy.
That he hadn't read before. No, I promise that this is the last time I'll bring it up. It was just low hanging fruit.
Absolutely low hanging. You deserve all the credit for that. All
I
of it.
I couldn't resist. But I've read that book multiple times, and it reminded me when you were talking this morning about the high ground is through the valleys, and I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm not a shepherd. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But can't you get to those same pastures by going like up and around and over, where things are a little more open, the walls aren't closing? I'm a little claustrophobic too, by the way. So big walls on all sides, caves, robbers, all the things that you mentioned, and I'm like, there's got to be another route. Might take you a little bit longer, but maybe the shepherd should consider those routes too. No.
Well, just using the book that you so generously recommended to me, I feel like you already know the answer to that, Randy, since you read the book.
It's been a while though, so.
But yeah, no, Keller really makes the point that the valley is actually the safest way to go. If you are on the steep sides of a mountain, the sheep can fall down into. And that there's actually more danger going in other routes. There's also more forage, more food to eat in the valley.
Water
and things like that. And so as difficult as the valleys are, the other ways are actually more dangerous, according to Keller. Who you recommended to me.
No, and Keller we trust on this, I think, because he knows about these things. He researched them more than I have independently, so I'll take his word for it. But you add into that journey with Viktor Frankl,
yeah,
and survived four concentration camps.
One of which was Auschwitz, which it was none of the concentrations were a joke, but Auschwitz obviously has a very reputation for being a particularly hard place. And so use some quotes from his book, Man's Search for Meaning. And by the way, I was talking to somebody after the service who said that they try to read that book once a year. Because it's just kind of one of those books that you should. It's not a long book, and it's just profound.
Yeah, definitely.
Very profound book on meaning, and I think what makes it really profound is, one thing to hear Ken say that suffering is like a good thing, blah blah blah. It's another thing to hear that coming from somebody who survived the Holocaust, who went through profound suffering, and to hear them say, "Well, this actually made me a better person," and it made me. Because the thing about Frankl is that he was a psychologist before the Holocaust began. Before World War II, he was already a practicing psychologist, And one of the things, by the way, that was interesting is that one of the things that got him through the concentration camps was that he had an unfinished manuscript that he had written before the Holocaust began on one of his theories. I think one of his psychology theories, and so he persisted with the hope of being able to publish it after the war was over, and in fact did.
Well, I'm going to put a link to that book in the show notes today. Swipe up and you'll find it, because I've already ordered my copy during first service. I was like, this sounds like something that I need to read. But one of the things that always, you talk about the suffering in the valley, and we all know that the tension is good, the suffering is good. But why can't deeper meaning be more in the academia realm? Like, let's learn about suffering. Let's
speak about it in the abstract.
Yes, let's have discussions. Let's learn from each other. Let's all get together and learn suffering, and so that maybe we can help others avoid suffering, including ourselves. And it's never that way. But why did God choose the suffering as a way that, like, we learn our best lessons? Because we all have a story that I'm sure will tell us when we look back, if we're being honest, that, wow, I probably learned more of what I don't want to be, who I don't want to be, how I don't want to act, or how I want other people to view me through some situation in our life where we really screwed it up bad, and the consequences were fairly heavy. But how come there's not another way to do this that's maybe just a little less painful, even though we just kind of heard Frankl and going like, hey.
Well, there is a thing called positive reinforcement where you learn because you get rewards. So there's that side of it too. I think you can learn things on the other end of the spectrum from suffering as well. But suffering, I think it also has to do, though, with the depth of emotion when we remember things. The things that we remember the most are typically attached to one of the senses, like if it's a painful experience, or if there's a smell associated or something like that, something that triggers one of our other senses or other feelings that causes those things to be reinforced.
Yeah, I don't know why I read all the kinds of books on weightlifting, and for whatever reason I have not become buff yet, and I keep praying for that day. So
I think
you got to do more than read a book.
You need to lift heavier books.
Okay. So
Hashtag thank you, Captain Obvious.
That's what I've been doing wrong. Okay,
Nuts.
well, and I think but maybe that's a little bit metaphorical. Maybe they're just some life lessons that. One of the things I find fascinating is text in Hebrews 5:8, and I've never really had anybody. Maybe Melanie's heard a good exposition on this. I've never really heard a great one on it, but it says, even though Jesus was God's son, he learned obedience from the things he suffered. That to me is I've always been a little puzzled by that, because Jesus was perfect, right? So how did he learn obedience? Because obedience, how did he? But Hebrews says that Jesus learned obedience through suffering. That's a fascinating one for me, and like I said, maybe that's a sermon for another time. But
does that mean that maybe some things we would consider to be disobedience wouldn't necessarily be a sin? It's just a learning opportunity? I mean, because it seems
I just brought the verse up, Randy. I'm not here to take it apart right now.
All right. Melanie, I see her typing on her phone.
What was that? Hebrews 5:8. Yeah. Carry on. I'm just doing my little research on the side over here.
Tim, do you want to help her out?
No, she said carry on, and I thought of meat. My mind's going way off in the long run.
Okay, well, all right. Well,
don't worry, he didn't make the chili.
Oh man! All right. Well, the last part that I wanted to cover that I thought really was, and I remember this from reading the book about really examining the rod and how it's such a useful tool for the shepherd to have control of the flock and to check them over. But I liked the New Living Translation that said, "I will examine you carefully." Mm-hmm. And that one, though, comes to me a little bit with a two-edged sword. Right now in my life, that's really comforting because I know that there's stuff that needs to be examined. There are things that need to be carefully taken care of, and I know that Jesus will do those things in his time, in his way, maybe not always how I'd like to, but having the faith that that will happen. But how do you help someone understand that concept when you're asking them to put in the valley, you're asking them to put their hands in his care, their lives in his hands, his care, when they haven't made that connection yet, or maybe they haven't had a chance to taste and see that he's good and that he truly is the good shepherd. That's the part that is really hard. And it came, and I want to put that in. T. Cinco had a comment that said, how might the good shepherd connect with those who are unaware of his presence or who may not even know him? And that, I guess she asked that question after I had already kind of started thinking about it. And so how do we help those who just, are unaware of his presence or just don't know that they need him or that he's there for them?
Well, I think one of the ways is just to walk alongside them. And I don't think that I think sometimes it's hard to introduce somebody to God without you first demonstrating what God is doing in your life and why God makes a difference for you. And so I think firstly, if for somebody who doesn't know God at all, doesn't trust God at all, sometimes when they're going through a dark valley, it's a bad time to tell them now's the time for you to trust God, the same God that they feel like brought this on them potentially. And maybe what's most important is to walk just alongside them and be the rod and the staff in their life, be a representative of Jesus to them, and maybe then later they'll see how you were God's gift to them through that experience and through the difficulties that they went through.
And just be willing to listen when you're walking beside someone. Be the listening board.
That's good advice. Listen. Hard to do.
Yeah, without giving advice back, it is hard to do. But that can be some of the best comforting friends that you have are the ones that are just there.
Well, that's true. That's true. Well, I'm going to get into we do have to get cooking here because there's another service. But
one of the things I didn't put in the sermon because I was loath to quote Nietzsche.
Me too. That Nietzsche guy. It's a guy, right?
Yeah,
That's a guy.
Cool. That Nietzsche guy.
Friedrich
I'm with you.
Yeah, but Frankl actually quotes him, and I thought the quote was an interesting one. I really actually didn't just use it because it couldn't figure out exactly where I wanted to work it in. But I thought one of the interesting things he said, and maybe this comes down to a little bit of what we were just talking about, is that Nietzsche says that if you know the why, you can handle the hows. If you know the why, then you can endure the hows. And so, I think sometimes the why is hard to get at. But I think that when you know Jesus and you have a sense of God's purpose for you, that gives you a little bit of the why the ability to kind of hang through and the how you're going to get and how you're going to get through this experience and that experience. So just want to throw that in because I like the quote and I just couldn't figure out how to use it in my sermon. So I thought I'd bring it to the podcast.
Well, and for the record, I think Nietzsche gets a bad rap.
You think so?
Quite often, yeah. His quote, "God is dead and we have killed him," has been used out of context and wrongly for so long. But that's another podcast.
Well,
I figured it would take a whole sermon to explain all that too. So probably just easier to do it in the podcast, and then people can write in there.
I feel like shows on our to-do list keep growing.
Yeah,
because that's another podcast.
Bonus episodes
and books to read.
We do need to flush these out and drop them in as bonuses.
That's if we're good for one thing on this podcast. We give you more books to read.
That's right,
and more places to go eat.
That's right,
and that's good for everybody.
Maybe we should rename the podcast.
Feed your mind and your
maybe. Well, this
Eats and reads.
It's whole life. It's all encompassing.
Whole life,
Dan. Whole life. All right. Well, I want to go through the last. We had a conversation that Tito, who was our online host this week, that sprung up in the chat. It was literally crickets until Chad wrote this question and comment, and then we had this back and forth, which really really ended well. And what I want to point out about this conversation is what we've been talking about, that if you're struggling, whole life is a safe place. There are people who are openly ready to have conversations that, like, yeah, I can admit that this is my weakness, and then others will rally around you and let you know that you're not the only one and that they're there to listen. And also that Stevens Ministers is a huge thing here at our church, and something that, you know, we talk about here in the podcast a lot, just because it's something that you have available to you here through our Stevens Ministers. And if the link to their webpage, and they're going to be doing training in January, maybe you'd like to be a caregiver, but if you need their services as a care receiver, all that information is there. Swipe up in the show notes and you can have access to that. Chad wrote, I had a therapist tell me one time I was trying to rewrite the 23rd Psalm to, though I run through the valley of the shadow of death. And what is the benefit of walking through the valley rather than running? And Ken answered that question.
I already answered it. So we should hear from Tim or Melanie or Tito or.
And so, Tim's deferring. So, Melanie, what's the benefit?
Yeah. So, you know, the funny thing, when I heard Ken gave a great answer. So we can go with Ken's answer, but I mean,
let's hear a better answer.
I wanted to offer the other side of that, because I remember I attended a church once where there was a lady that would come up to me every single week and tell me what terrible things had happened to her that week, every single week. And it got to the point where I really wanted to say, you know, the text is, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, not yea, though I set up camp, invite all my friends, hang out, plant a vineyard, you know, this, yea, though I walk through the valley. So I think that there can be difficulty on either side. If you're trying to run through it, you know what? You're living in denial, and you're going to end up having to come circle back. You know, that's why the Israelites had to do like 40 laps around Mount Sinai, because they had to walk through that valley and not run through it. But then there's the other side of it also, where, you know what? You're not supposed to stay there. That's not your final destination. Keep walking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that.
Well, and I responded right away. I just said, the running seems more my speed, admittedly. And Tito didn't throw me under the bus and name me personally in the chat, which you know, it's okay.
There's all kinds of good things that come out.
Tito.
All kinds of good stuff comes out during podcasts.
I appreciated that. But and then Tito said, I see what you're saying, Randy, but if God is walking with us, isn't it that taking away free will? Because he's telling us how to go, in which Ken also answered. And And I don't disagree with what Ken's saying, but I also feel like that is something that I've struggled with, when you're telling me what to do and I trust you, but also if there's that piece of me that always, and maybe it's upbringing, but it's always that piece that I just don't like being told what to do, number one. Number two, if you're telling me what to do, and that's, I mean, how is that? You're God. That's kind of final. And is that kind of a way that I don't have free will if I'm following? And it's that piece that I shouldn't have, because I really do trust that God has my best intentions, my best everything in for me. But to do it without sometimes just having that piece where you're like,
What was that song this morning? It was like perfect submission. What's the rest of that?
Oh, y'all should take that show on the road.
Mine.
What?
Oh, what a fortune!
Blessed assurance.
Blessed assurance. Was that this morning?
Yeah, that was this morning.
That's
yes.
right. It was. Yeah, I missed part of that because I was setting up.
I think that
I don't have perfect submission.
I think that as we find the ability to submit, which sheep aren't good at, but as we find the ability to submit, there is greater peace and there's greater rest in our life. And I think that's one of the parts of Sabbath that we probably sometimes struggle to really grasp, is that this idea of Sabbath has more than with a day of the week. It has to do with resting from our works and resting in the work that God did and has done, and just trusting that that's enough.
Yeah. I feel like partial submission is how I sing that sometimes.
Partial submission.
Partial submission. Yeah, no. It's,
Jesus is kind of mine.
yeah,
Yeah,
that kind of, yeah. And I'm not saying that with glee. I'm just saying that as a real,
just honesty, because
just
we
keeping real.
value authenticity here.
And so those are the times when you feel like, I just need to give the rest away. So then Jody Howell, who I love very much, came into the comments and said, perhaps it's because when we walk instead of run, we pay more attention to what is around us. The focus becomes what we see and learn on the journey, not just getting to the end, which is super good
Being
advice.
present.
Yeah.
And then
I just had, maybe I'm a little slower because this is new to me, but yeah, back to running through the darkest valley.
are you in your second lap?
I've been through a couple of darkest valleys, and my recollection is I didn't have the energy or the mental fortitude to speed it up. And that basically crawling through it, knowing that there is something on the other end, and that put my trust in God alone. And I don't know. I never even thought of, I want this behind me. I just knew I had to go through something, and if I survive this, then there's good stuff on the other end, and it's because of the grace of God.
I think that's totally valid to have that alternative translation. Yea, though I crawl through the valley of the shadow of death, because the truth is, I mean, yeah, people enter that valley in a lot of different ways.
And I think the valleys are different every time. At least it has been for me, where some you feel like it is almost like, wow, that one went really, really well. And then you're like, hey, the power of prayer works. And then, the ones that take forever, like, man, I don't know if God's listening. And then it seems like the people that are on either side of those are usually the people that find you to help give you either good or bad advice during that time, or reinforce what you're feeling. So being focused on God in that situation can be tough, but maybe the most important, like Jody said, just to be paying attention at what's happening around us. So Anonymous said, we each need to know who is our shepherd. Otherwise, we could stay in the valley and never reach the other side. That's the setting up camp, planting a vineyard kind of thing I get. And then Jody said, as a final, she said, I admit that I'm walking in a valley right now and I'd rather run, but I'm learning a lot about myself, some especially hard things, and my patient, gracious, loving Father. So we prayed over her in the chat, and that was it was an honor to do that. And Jody, I appreciate that you're willing to be just so transparent with us and to allow us to be a part of that journey, because we all need help when it comes to that journey, and especially when you're in one of the hard things. When you're learning about yourself, those are some hard realities sometimes to face. So before I forget, I see Melanie has her hand raised, and I believe we have one extra question that she got on the Melanie Super Secret hotline. And so it didn't come in through
Everybody
normal
should
channels.
use that hotline. Just send all your questions to the Melanie Super Secret hotline.
That's it. What do you got for us?
Yes. So this question just came in. For some of us, the valley of the shadow has been deemed a sin. Thus, within the communities of faith, there is no higher place to get to. And this person is thinking of the LGBTQI+, and of course there are others. And so that was a thought. What if there is no higher place to get to?
I guess my question, and it's hard since the person who's asking it isn't here, I wonder if the person who wrote that believes that there's no higher place to get to.
I'm missing something. What a higher place to get to than what?
Than the valley that they
Feeling.
find themselves in.
So once you're in the valley, that's it. There's nothing past that. There's nothing.
I think that the idea is that if you find yourself in the kind of valley for which there seems to be no outlet or no higher ground, and if that valley happens to be within a faith community.
So if you're in a box canyon, then
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that when you're in a community that has a lot of weight that you carry with you, it does seem sometimes, like, and especially when you know that things aren't going to change. I mean, we, as a special needs dad, when you look at your kids, like with Ellie, it was always sky's the limit. She's smart. She's anything you could ask for in a kid, and there's nothing she can't do. But then I look at Emily and I go, well, she's awesome. She's amazing. And she's a smart kid too. But there are absolutely things that no matter what I want or what I think or what medical breakthroughs, whatever, there are absolutely things she can't do. So where does that leave you when it's a heavy place to be in, when you just don't know where is the ceiling, and if I don't know how to get there, which I don't, there's so many things you learn every day, but they seem to come in long drawn out stretches. How do you deal with that? Because it is a long valley, and it doesn't seem like there is a path out.
Perpetual canyon. Yeah,
no matter where you go and where you get advice. That's a good question, because I feel whoever, if you're listening, if you sent the question in, thank you. I feel the
good one.
And
it's a fair one.
I feel the weight of that, and I wish I had a good answer, because I don't. I just know what it feels like to be there, and it's no fun.
well, sometimes that sentiment maybe is helpful.
Maybe.
That we're there with you.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's not this. It might not be the same situation, but
Right. Yeah, no.
we can be in the valley together.
I felt that way before in different times of my life, when the valley seems really, really long, and it's always come out the other side. So I also like to be optimistic that whatever God has planned is what ultimately will be the best possible outcome if I follow while I'm here. But that's, like, I think what you mentioned earlier about the whys are the hardest things to figure out. And this is one of those whys that we've had to deal with, and this person, I'm sure, is dealing with. If you can't answer that, it's hard to answer or find solutions.
It's hard to deal with the how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that question. I'm glad we didn't. The super secret Melanie hotline was open, and that we were able to discuss it, because those are we all have those at some point. So know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else about the valley? Fast, slow, medium paced.
Keep walking.
Keep walking.
Keep trusting.
Melanie?
Yeah. Like keep crawling. There we go.
Yes.
I'll throw that one back in there.
There you go. Nothing like putting you on the spot right at the last minute for one more, right?
Not so much about about the 23rd Psalm, but I was really worried about Jeff retiring, in January, and I'm now seeing that,
Tim could be a new part
can
of the...
just, come in every Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, you just drive up from wherever you're hanging out. And,
Give me a helicopter.
Oh, that's right, the helicopter.
Not a problem.
Not a problem.
Not a problem.
We'll just send the whole life helicopter.
So it was just and just like Creflo Dollar, I have this feeling that God has wanted me to have a Learjet or something, whatever it is.
We need a helipad on the roof, don't you think?
Yeah. Why not? This is a flat roof.
There's room.
There should be.
I've been up there. There's room.
If we put a helipad on there, then we have to have a helicopter to go on it. So
I think
Start
it's doable.
the fundraiser for
Why
that.
not?
That's right. I think it's
There
doable.
we go.
All right. Next week, I didn't write down. What are we talking about next week? Which one is it?
The table.
The table. That's right. And then there's only one more, and then we're in Christmas time.
Christmas time.
Man.
What are we doing for Christmas this year? We have one set, I know.
I'm
but
celebrating.
You're celebrating?
Yeah, I'll celebrate this Christmas.
Okay. Well, I guess that's something to look for. But we have
I'll give you a
Thanksgiving
hint,
first.
Randy.
Yeah.
Come and see.
Wow. Last night, and I left here about 9:00, and I'm driving home, and I'm on my street, and the neighbors, a couple houses down, have their big bay window open, and there is a ginormous Christmas tree and living room piled full of Christmas decorations.
That's not okay.
It is not okay.
I do not endorse that.
No.
My neighbors.
Christmas trees do not belong in homes until after Thanksgiving. You can put it up Thanksgiving Day. That's fine.
Yeah.
but before Christmas, and I'm sorry, I'm going to take a hard stance on this.
Oh, I am too.
And yeah, I mean,
I
I know
do.
that there's some people out there who's going to fight me on this, but
No, the earliest your tree can go up.
But you know, Ken, my wife put up our Christmas tree in October.
well, I want you to know that if you need me to tell her
Lucy,
that
really?
no,
Bro, I'm telling you, I was like, Thanksgiving, and then you can have the house to yourself.
get through Halloween for that matter. I mean,
Well, I like to do.
I don't know what to say because it's like October comes and it's already.
Well,
what are we doing for
Does she have the Christmas tunes playing yet?
Yes, she does.
Oh,
Christmas. You've got the whole ball of wax.
I get.
till when?
I get Christmas. I'm surprised it doesn't start in July.
It will be someday. I mean, that's the way. That's
You're
the
working
direction
towards
you're
it.
working towards. How
creeping
long? How long does
compromise
it
there.
stay up?
It stays up till after Three Kings Day, which us Puerto Ricans we used to through January 6th.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay.
there was actually a year where she kept it up after Valentine's Day.
Wow.
Wow.
I would- I
So
call- I
that's
call
like
that
you have
dedication.
that you have that tree up more of the year than you don't.
Exactly.
Is it a
Wow.
real tree?
It's not a real tree.
Okay. Well, that's probably good because that'd be a pretty big fire hazard after 6 months.
1 year we did a real tree, and that tree stayed up till June.
So,
Oh,
Wow.
how did you do that? Like, was there any? Were there needles left on it, or?
I'm telling you, water is a miracle.
oh yeah. Keep watering.
See,
them.
I was just about to
And
suggest
keep
to you the way
cutting the bottom.
to solve your problem is to just say that it has to be a real tree,
But
and then
yeah.
it has to come down. But apparently that doesn't work.
You know, they
Okay.
do have the chunky pine spray paint so that you can spray paint your.
And preserve it.
I know people who have taken everything off the tree, lights, everything, sprayed their tree back, and then put it all back on again just to get it to go a little bit longer. And I'm like, no way.
Well, Mariana, when does yours go up?
Usually after Thanksgiving.
Okay, all right.
See, like,
So
That's
it's
good.
just-
That's good. When does it come down?
After New Year's.
After New Year's. That's
That's
pretty
okay.
good.
All right.
I like it up for New
Man.
Year's.
See, that's allowable.
Yeah, I like after New Year's. I'm done. Let's go away.
Oh, man, December 25 at 4 p.m. Mine's coming down.
Wow, you don't
I'm
even
over
wait.
it.
You
It's
don't even
over.
wait for Christmas to be, the day to be over.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
See, Friday. The tradition is at our house was always Friday afternoon. You go after Thanksgiving. Everyone's now alive again and ready to go do something. So about noontime, you go out, get your tree,
On
and
Thanksgiving
then
Day?
Friday after Thanksgiving.
Okay. I was like confused. I was like,
Yeah, no,
you're
no.
alive after like.
No, you're
yeah,
sleeping until halftime after the
Yeah, okay.
tryptophan nap. So
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
Line at Target after.
No, I won't do Black Friday ever.
You do Black Friday,
I don't
Tito?
do Black Friday. I work.
You.
You work so someone else can do Black Friday.
Friday.
My wife cooks dinner. I got no complaints. She wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning and starts dinner.
Wow.
She cooks the whole entire
Oh my word.
We eat. I watch a football game, and she is in a line at Target.
She
there you
is
go.
dedicated on all fronts.
Those
Every
presents
holiday.
The
she's
presents
got
aren't going
this.
to get under that tree by themselves, mister. Someone's got to go shopping. All right. Well, now that we have solved the mysteries of when it's okay to put up your Christmas tree, please plan accordingly, people. We just don't need to see trees
I
up
feel
this
like that.
early.
I feel like that has
Other
something.
than Lucy,
I
you
feel
do
like that
whatever
had-
you want to do because we love you and Tito loves you. So you just keep doing you, girl.
But I still feel like that has to do with the Dark Valley.
It kind of does. It kind of does.
You're camping in the valley.
Yeah.
Well, so your
Camping.
wife comes along and strings lights around you. That seems
Well, if,
like
if there's a little bright
light
spot
up the
in
dark valley.
yeah, a little brighten it up a little bit, have a little festiveness. I'm okay with that. I'm okay
Now,
with
you
that.
want to talk about the Valley of Shadow of Death? Just working retail over Christmas.
Yeah, right.
Ugh.
No, thank you.
Worst Christmas ever. Healthcare too?
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
That's equally as
Oh,
bad?
yeah, these two. Yeah, no one
I
wants
haven't
to be.
had that experience, so I don't know. So, have you done retail?
No.
Haven't done retail. Have you done retail during Christmas?
Not Christmas, no.
I'm really curious because I wonder if somebody who's done retail and done healthcare, which one is worse?
I think anyone in the hospital not feeling well.
When you say retail, does restaurants count on that?
Yeah, food service, kind of.
I don't know.
Ken has some very, very specific trauma.
I worked in a Disney store during college over Christmas. Let me tell you something.
I love this story.
The happiest place on earth is not the happiest place on earth when certain guests show up. I can just tell
Unhappy
you that.
parents.
Oh my word!
Things
It's like
sell out.
you show up Christmas Eve and you want a Buzz Lightyear. That was, by the way, that was the
That
year.
was the
But that
Buzz?
was the year. Buzz was the thing that year. It was the first Toy Story, and people showed up on Christmas Eve and seriously thought there was going to be a Buzz Lightyear thing left. And you're like, yeah. My favorite is like the people are like, anyway. Another show, different podcast. But
Wow.
man, I just. Like
Talk
there's
about
just-
faith,
There's
man.
nothing that makes your Christmas bright and cheery like having somebody curse you out multiple times. And
Well, Ken, if you'd have kept a couple of those buzzes under the desk there, you would have been.
Selling
I would have
for-
been
$500
I would have been
times.
fired, is what would have happened, because Disney is strict about that stuff.
The movie Jingle All the Way is actually based on your story.
There's a
Oh,
couple
yeah,
movies out
that's
there that
right.
are based on my life story.
good
That
one.
the other one is the. I can't even say that. Anyway, never mind. It was the.
We will be reviewing Christmas movies just in time for the holidays because you start your Christmas viewing over Thanksgiving, so maybe that's what we should do. Oh wait, I'm not going to be here. That's why we're doing it today on Saturday, isn't it? Sorry.
Look at you.
Maybe
week.
next year we'll
I-
do a
At some point.
some point.
I just picked up the DVD, A Charlie Brown Christmas.
Aww.
Had to have it.
How many DVDs is that for you now? What number is that?
24.
I think I'm up to 100 plus 1,500.
100 plus 15.
We have,
I want you to know when
Every
DVD
DVD
players come
known
back
to
in
man.
style.
That's it. That's it.
There it is.
or during the apocalypse of the digital age.
That's
Come
True.
watch movies at my place.
You can watch movies with him.
There's a great app for Mac called Rip It, and you can just rip those babies down to M4Vs, and you have it right out there.
No,
problem.
no.
Just in
Unless
case
there's some
the-
kind of solar pulse and then the energy got. Oh, I
Yeah.
guess that you
Hey,
can't
once,
use the DVD
once the last
anyway.
DVD player dies, you will be happy about.
Yeah, but once all electronics are worthless,
I guess there's that.
my DVD player
then
is
what are you
in-
gonna watch
is
it on?
in is in a cage.
He's gonna hang them all from the ceiling and just watch them twinkle.
You can probably start fires with the reflection of like off the sun off of the DVD player.
Start a fire. It's good.
Yeah, Tito, Lucy's got her holidays. My husband has his DVDs.
Yeah.
So
I have a few.
Betamax, you want to tell me.
I have a few.
Laserdisc. I like it.
but mainly DVD. The big
Well,
ones.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
album size one.
I buy
Have
those
we ever
because
been
of
more
the
off topic
artwork
in our-
on the
in our
cover.
This has been a pretty wide
Pretty cool.
detour. I blame it on our
8
guests.
tracks,
Yeah, let's blame it on the guests in the room.
turntables.
This is not what we normally do.
This will probably be my last time they give me a microphone.
Oh man. Well, you know what? I feel like this is all in the theme and the energy of Barn Party today. So,
Amen.
I'm excited
Yes.
for the afternoon. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And so, hopefully, we will say afterwards, it was great to see you at Barn Party if you came. And if not, there's always next year. Just like Cub fans, right? It's always next year. But they have won one since there's always been. Do they still do that? I don't know.
I don't
Oh
know.
well, I don't really care. I don't follow baseball, so it doesn't
On
really
that
matter to
note.
me. On that note, next week was. Did we ever decide what next week was?
What do you mean?
What?
Table?
Oh, the table.
table.
That's right. Next week. Yeah, follow me to the table.
Yeah, we decided that
As
about
in
6 months
Thanksgiving?
ago.
No, that was sometimes.
Melanie, I made that decision. Yeah, probably a good 9 months ago. But
Sometimes the host is the last to know, and then he forgets really quickly after it's been said 6 minutes ago. So you just never know. All right, guys. Thank you for listening as always, and have a great week.
Oh, my word.